Ohio State has been playing college football for over 100 years, a span that has given rise to some of college football's most memorable and exciting teams. But standing atop that tower of excellence are but a few elite teams, teams that reach the summit of the game's highest peak. These teams are the greatest Ohio State has ever produced, the ones we can forever call champions.
Ohio State's upset victory in the 2003 Fiesta Bowl was the stunning climax to one of Ohio State's greatest seasons ever. The season that saw the Buckeyes awake from a 3-year slumber and diminished expectations to climb their way back to the top of college football.
That's a dream. That's beyond the goal to win a national championship. That's a dream.
At that point, my body was numb. I didn't know whether to cry or whether to jump for joy.
It just became an attitude on one side that we're gonna win, and the other side of, wow, these guys are a little bit better than we thought.
All those guys had that blank look, and we're just looking at them like, yeah, we're gonna be right back after you again.
Once we got in there and just seen what it was all about, we just knew that that Friday night was gonna be our night.
You just knew that everybody was gonna go out there and give it their all. It was 11 heartbeats beating as one.
And if you do that for an entire game, for the entire season, good things are probably gonna happen. That's exactly what happened for 2002.
But 2002 was not the first time Ohio State has claimed college football's consummate crown. Over a span of 60 years, the Buckeyes have finished 5 glorious seasons as the nation's top team. 1942 gave rise to a wartime band of brothers, while Hopalong's heroes claimed the crown in '54. 1957 produced a pack of pint-sized demons, and a squad of young upstarts known as the Super Sophomores seized the brass ring in 1968. And after a 3-decade drought that saw numerous near misses, the Cardiac Kids of 2002 brought championship glory back to Ohio. And while the names have changed with the passing of time, common bonds can be found with all the Buckeyes' best.
None of Ohio State's 5 national titles really came during seasons where Ohio State was expected to win the national title. Paul Brown was expected to have a pretty good team in 1942, but nobody predicted Ohio State would win the Big Ten that season. Woody Hayes' 1954 team was predicted to be somewhere around the middle of the pack in the Big Ten. The 57 team, without question, exceeded everybody's expectations. The 68 team was really anticipating a good season, but I don't think anybody really dreamed it would be an undefeated national title. And certainly everybody was expecting Jim Tressel's team to improve over the 7-5 record his first season, but I don't think even the most avid Ohio State fans would have dreamed of a 14-0 season in 2002.
And though each team was blessed with a bounty of talent, individual aspirations were quickly set aside for the sake of the team.
Everything is team first, and you die for the team. You die for the guy next to you, and you want to improve, and you're never satisfied with the way you play. You always want to be better.
If you failed your team members. You had a responsibility.
We really didn't care who the credit went to. We all knew that if we stuck together and just played hard together, everything would come out our way.
If you lost your position, you didn't feel bad about that. You know you had a great team, and that was the main thing, it was a team.
You have to see a melding of the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. It has to be everybody stepping up, and that's exactly what happened.
That unity was forged by 3 unique men who'd all been given the reins to proud but drifting programs. All 3 wasted little time righting the Buckeye ship.
Paul Brown led Ohio State to its first national title in just his second year at Ohio State, 1942. Jim Tressel led Ohio State to a national title in just his second season at Ohio State. And even though it took Woody Hayes 4 years to earn his first national title, his second year was as strong a 6-3 year, I think, as Ohio State ever had.
Woody was a commander, and he knew situations. He was going to play the best person, and he was going to do best for everybody else on the team.
Paul Brown was so minutely detailed that you didn't waste any time of accomplishing what he wanted you to accomplish.
When Jim Tressel was announced as the head coach, he came up with the best one-liner in the history of Ohio State, as far as I'm concerned, by saying, you're going to be proud of our young men, in the classroom. You're going to be proud of our young men in the community, but most especially
in 310 days in Ann Arbor, Michigan, on the football field.
I was like, thank you. That's the attitude. We need to hear that.
Yet for all they shared in common, each coach's team took a separate path to glory. Glory that Buckeye fans will cherish for a lifetime. In 1936, the Ohio State Buckeyes finished the season with a 5-3 record and a second-place finish in the Big Ten Conference. And while that campaign has long been forgotten, the 36th season saw the birth of something truly historic, college football's first weekly poll. It wasn't long before the Buckeyes became a perennial presence in college football's annual obsession. In fact, just 6 seasons later, in 1942, the Buckeyes finished the season as the nation's #1 team. Led by Coach Paul Brown, Ohio State won the Big Ten title and entered their season finale ranked 3rd in the country. But a surprising win over Iowa Pre-Flight, a team of wartime all-stars, plus 2 shocking upsets moved Brown's Buckeyes into the #1 spot. But just 2 seasons later, Paul Brown was gone, and the Ohio State program slowly began to slide. By the end of 1950, the Buckeyes would be looking for their 5th head coach in just 9 seasons. The man they would hire would lead the Buckeyes to unprecedented success. But that success was almost short-circuited by fickle fans who wanted Woody gone after just 3 seasons.
With a record of 16-9-1, a lot of the Ohio State fans were thinking another mediocre season and Hayes will be gone and we'll replace him with another coach.
Things looked grim when his 54 team was picked to finish in the middle of the Big Ten pack. But Woody turned the tide, and the Buckeyes reeled off 9 straight wins and captured the conference crown. That winning streak was extended to 10 when Ohio State downed USC in the Rose Bowl 20-7 to complete their unlikely perfect season.
The 1954 season completely changed fans' image of Woody Hayes. Yet with the Big Ten title and the national championship, Woody Hayes is really starting to establish himself as one of the all-time greatest coaches.
Woody's newfound popularity only grew when just 3 seasons later, he did it again. The title came as a surprise to some who felt like the team was in need of a bit of rebuilding.
We'd lost Jim Parker and Hop Cassidy, and we didn't know what to expect, what kind of a team we have. I believe Woody knew that he had the makings of a good team, but nobody ever thought of national championships or anything. It's just somehow, some way win the Big Ten.
An opening game loss to TCU made even a Big Ten title look unlikely. But the Buckeyes bounced back with a big win at Washington, and as the weeks passed, the wins mounted. With just 2 games remaining, the conference title was squarely in sight. A historic clash against 5th-ranked Iowa proved to be the bellwether game.
That game was much bigger that season than the Michigan game. It was such that the demand was one of the greatest ever for any game during the 1950s.
The game lived up to all the hype, but with just over 7 minutes remaining, Ohio State trailed 14-10, starting from their own 32-yard line. The Buckeyes, led by fullback Bob White, embarked on one of Ohio State's most famous and dominating drives.
It was a Herculean effort by everybody, but primarily Bob White. He just said, I'm going to do it, and he did it. He carried us.
By the time Ohio State had reached the Iowa 40-yard line, everybody in the stadium knew what was coming on the next play. It was simply White up the middle.
On the 8th play of the drive, White hit pay dirt, having carried the ball on 7 of the plays, getting all but 2 of the needed 68 yards. A win over Michigan the following week and a Rose Bowl defeat of Oregon put the Buckeyes' final record at 9-1 and capped a historic turnaround after their opening day defeat.
It's the only year in all of Ohio State football that the Ohio State team lost the opener and then won every game the rest of the season.
4 seasons later, in 1961, the Buckeyes were poised for yet another title run. A 50-20 triumph over arch-rival Michigan capped an 8-0-1 season and put the top-ranked Buckeyes in a position to clinch another national title. But the university's faculty council voted to decline the team's Rose Bowl bid, and the unbeaten Buckeyes watched their #1 ranking handed to Alabama.
They never had a chance to go to the Rose Bowl and cap the season like they should have been. But, you know, what are you going to do? Sometimes things in athletics and in football are not always fair, and that wasn't fair.
Well, it obviously hurt Ohio State football for the next 4 or 5 years because we had a hard time recruiting after that happened, because then you didn't know for sure what the heck was going to happen with the Ohio State faculty. Were they going to vote you in or out?
7 years would pass without a piece of the Big Ten title, leading restless fans to call for Coach Hayes' job. But behind a class of scintillating sophomores, 1968 saw Ohio State break through with one of college football's greatest seasons ever. Sparked by a 13-0 upset of #1 Purdue, the '68 Buckeyes reeled off 8 straight wins to set up a penultimate battle with arch-rival Michigan.
I can honestly say, when we looked in the Michigan players' eyes at the toss of the game, there was absolutely no doubt that we were going to win that game.
We, just kept coming and coming and kept pounding and pounding, and we broke them down.
This was a game that we put it all together. And it's one of the greatest games I think we ever had. Everything was clicking, and every cylinder was gone at once.
Up 21-14 at the half, the Buckeyes rang up 29 unanswered points in the final 30 minutes to post a 50-14 knockout of the hated Wolverines.
Everybody was going crazy and stuff, there was parties up and down the street.
Everybody was on the bandwagon. There was not a person in town who didn't think that the Buckeyes could go all the way.
The overwhelming triumph moved the '68 Bucks into the #1 slot and set up a Rose Bowl showdown against #2 Southern Cal. In Pasadena, the Buckeyes quickly found themselves facing a 10-0 deficit, thanks to the exploits of Heisman Trophy winner O.J. Simpson. But the Buckeyes defense got a handle on the juice, and the offense exploded for 27 straight points. When the clock hit 0, there could be no dispute about who was #1. The win gave Woody his 3rd national title, and with a team that was stacked with a slew of returning talent, it seemed that '68 would be only the beginning. But the '69 Buckeyes were upended in Ann Arbor in one of Ohio State's most devastating defeats. The following year, they were upset again, this time in the Rose Bowl at the hands of Stanford and quarterback Jim Plunkett. Both games cost the Buckeyes undisputed national titles and set a discouraging trend that would last for the next 30 years. But just as it had happened 4 times before, a title would emerge when it was least expected. The way it was won made it well worth the wait. In 1968, the Ohio State Buckeyes won their 4th national title in 26 years. Winning their 5th would not prove easy. From 1969 through 1998, 12 Buckeye teams took top 3 rankings deep into the season, only to see their dreams come crashing down in flames. The 1970s saw numerous #1s fall by the wayside, and the 1980 Rose Bowl saw the top-ranked Buckeyes lose by 1 in the game's closing moments. In the 1990s, the Buckeyes would make 4 late-season stabs at winning it all, only to come up empty when it mattered the most.
To go unbeaten is very, very difficult. There's only 1-2 teams tops a year that can do it. And you got to have everything go your way. And being a part of teams that came so close, you realize how difficult it is.
But just when a title seemed impossible to some, along came a season that will never be forgotten.
Ohio State's had many great seasons over its first 113 years of major college football. But if you had to pick one season as a saying, hey, this one is just a little bit special, I would pick the 2002 season, not only because they were national champions, but because of how they did it.
That formula called for devastating defense, steady and efficient offense, rock-solid kicking, and a heaping dose of late-game heroics.
You can even go back as early as the Cincinnati game, and we had to shut them down 4 straight plays, and we were able to get the job done.
And they won at Wisconsin, and the way they did made you feel that, man, this team might have something magical because they seem to find ways to win games.
Even when the offense went into a shell, the Buckeyes still found ways to put points on the board. Yet on a team defined by defense, the offense gave its best when it mattered the most, giving Ohio State the aura of a team guided by fate.
As each game went on, it just felt like destiny. It just felt like we were supposed to win. We're supposed to be where we're at.
There came a point to everybody who was a Buckeye fan, like, I think these guys may have an opportunity to play for this national championship.
That opportunity came one step closer after an overtime escape against Illinois.
Maurice Hall with a touchdown for Ohio State here in overtime.
But the Buckeyes knew that the next step up had brought down previous dream seasons.
Michigan had been that hurdle that some teams couldn't get over. We just wanted to go in there and make sure that they weren't the ones that stopped us.
Yet while the Ohio State defense kept the Buckeyes in the game, they entered the fourth quarter, trailing by 2. Desperate for points, the offense came to life. Craig Drenzel's pass to Maurice Clarett moved the ball deep into Michigan territory and put the Buckeyes in position for the go-ahead score.
Krenzel with the ball, option, pitch, Hall, right side, touchdown, Maurice Hall!
With over 7 minutes still on the clock, Michigan had time for 2 offensive drives, but the Buckeye defense answered the call. With just 1 second remaining, the Maize and Blue took their last best shot. With a 13-0 record and a number 2 ranking, the Buckeyes were down to one final test. But as they prepared to face the mighty Miami Hurricanes, respect from the scribes was nowhere to be found.
If you would have looked at the papers down there, you thought Miami was just going to have an inter-squad spring game down there.
When you're a team that's told that you don't have a chance and heck of winning this game, by the time they showed up, I mean, Ohio State had the eye of the tiger. You could put an NFL team out there. They were ready to just go.
What unfolded has been called college football's greatest game ever.
Being chased to the 5, and McGahee in the end zone to throw from his 13. Hit, football fumbled, it's loose, and it looks are coming, fires up the middle, tipped, and it's intercepted at the 50-yard line by Michael Doss. He intercepted by Sean Taylor in the end zone, bringing it up. Zone 28.
We got the ball back.
Football fumbled at the end of the play. 13, hit, football fumbled, it's loose. Into the end zone for Winslow, away from Gamble, and the game is over.
Flag, it's a flag.
Wow. Moving right side inside the 5, pushing into the end zone, Maurice Clarett. Touchdown for the freshman from Ohio State. Dorsey under a center Romberg. Sands motioning. Back is Dorsey to throw. Grabbed. He throws it in the end zone. And it's incomplete. The Buckeyes win the national championship in 2 overtime.
From the time we got to the stadium to the time we left, it was just something special.
To see us, fight through all that adversity and finally finish it out on top, that really gets emotional.
They're playing the national championship, going to 2 overtimes, and then end up the defensive MVP. I just couldn't ask for a better ending.
The greatest championship game that I've ever witnessed at any level, and I think they shocked the world.
The Fiesta Bowl triumph was the crowning achievement to an astonishing year for the team, for the fans, and for everyone that calls themselves Buckeyes.
I didn't take one snap, obviously. I didn't call one play. I didn't go in there and lift weights, but I felt like I was a part of it.
To see Ohio State win that national championship this year, it doesn't get any better than that.
They did something that we tried to do 3 times, and we missed 3 rings because of 1 game. Woody, he would be beside himself.
Jim Tressel, he had an angel on his shoulder. Well, that angel on his shoulder was Woody Hayes.
The wait's been long, way too long, and I think we all take part of it, but just a great year. What more can you say?
The emphasis on team is the common bond that links every great Ohio State season. It's what Woody Hayes meant when he said, "You win with people." Yet for all its simplicity, the message fulfills its highest potential on the rarest of occasions. But when it happens, those are the teams that become winners, and a few become champions. For Buckeye Classics, I'm Archie Griffin. Thanks for watching.